Well, good morning YouTube, and welcome back to Handlebars and Holidays once again. Thank you for joining me on what is quite a hazy morning. It's Wednesday the 28th today, and I am on my Todd once again, and going to have a ride out to Moor River today, which is in the town of Guilderton. It's a nice little spot. It's let's close that for a second. Yeah, it's a nice little spot. A little bit unusual place. Often the place that we take people to see when they come over, because it's just that little bit different. Not the sort of thing that you see every day. But I'll not spoil any surprises. I'll show you when we get there. Couple of minor little changes to the setup today. Slight alterations to camera settings. Reposition my microphone in my helmet. We've got it actually inside the lining now, so I'm hoping that what you hear on this trip is about as good as it gets. We've got a slightly different setup organised for when we get there and I leave the bike. So hopefully the sound in that respect will be a bit better too. So things are evolving all the time. We have had a slight revelation in the last few days since my last trip out, in that sadly Angie has decided that she's not going to pursue the motorcycling in her own right, which is a little bit of a shame. She was doing very well, but all things considered, she's decided that it's not really doing it for her. She feels like the biking is constant stopping and starting, changing gear, clutch in, clutch out, and I suppose we all get a bit lazy as we get older, but by her own admission, she's pretty much saying it's too much trouble. Which I can get, I understand that. She said all things considered, I'd rather just be a pillion and I can look round and take in what's going on instead of you know, having to concentrate to the point where she's not taking it all in and not enjoying it quite as much. So that's fair enough. It was something, we gave it a good try, and it's a little bit of a shame because she was doing very well, but at the end of the day, like I said to her, if you don't, there's risk involved. If you ride bikes, there's risk involved, and surely it's a risk-reward thing. So if you're not getting sufficient reward from it, then it's just not worth the risk. So the bike actually went yesterday. I put an advert on Gumtree, and very quickly we had a few people after it. It was a great little bike. It had done 655 kilometers, so it was basically a new bike, and it went to a really nice young guy who's wanting to learn. You know, he's brand new to motorcycling, so I think it'll be looked after. So that was the end of a fairly short era, shall we say. But still, we'll give it a go. So we're currently on Wanneroo Road. This road turns into Indian Ocean Drive a bit further up, and basically it just keeps going and going and going and going. You can stay on this road, as best I'm aware, you can stay on this road till you get to Darwin, which will probably take you about a week. But yeah, this just goes north. We're sort of running parallel with the coast, but a bit more inland. So I've got the drone with me today, and Moor River, because it's a bit unique, shall we say, is the ideal place to hopefully get a bit of decent drone footage. So again, I'll not spoil any surprises, but it should be good. actually woke this morning to a message from one of my viewers and a very good friend, who said that they'd recently sort of sat down and watched Handlebars and Holidays for the first time, and they were enjoying it and seeing what we were up to. But interestingly, they were doing it in bed at night whilst drinking herbal tea, apparently. Now, I'm not quite sure what to say about that. If Handlebars and Holidays is the most exciting thing that you can think to do in bed at night, well, that's a bit sad. I think I need to put a bit more effort in. Had the Harley out too much recently, and that's mainly, to be honest, because I'm enjoying doing the vlogs. I like the filming and I quite like the editing, and I need to refine the editing. I need better software and such like, but I'm enjoying that. And to be honest, the Yamaha is a bit better set up in terms of the vlogging. I've got the cameras more organised, I've got power up on the handlebars to power the GoPro, and the fact that I'd much prefer wearing an open face helmet on the Harley, I don't like wearing the full face, means that the sound quality of any vlogs is never going to be anything like the same. So yes, the Harley will certainly come out, but probably not quite as often as you'll see it anyway. But yeah, we'll have days out on the Harley, I'm sure. And now that Angie has resided herself to being a pillion again, she'll be with me, and in which case they'll probably be the Harley days. And we might have to wear these full face helmets when we're on the Harley, which I don't really like, but I think Harley, just, you should wear an open face. I don't know why, but it just seems right somehow. So we're just coming out of a 3-day lockdown in Perth. We had a minor COVID outbreak. I think basically it was just one guy, although they might have picked up another one or perhaps 2 cases, I'm not too sure. We had a 3-day lockdown this week. That was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No, it wasn't. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We were locked down, and as of Tuesday through to Saturday, we just have to wear masks outside. So we've got a couple more days of masks. But we've been very, very fortunate in WA. The government certainly jumped on the COVID thing very quickly and just closed the whole state down. So we've really had no community transmission. I believe there's only a couple of other places in the world that have managed to avoid COVID as well as WA has. So that's great news, really. We have to say we've been very, very fortunate. Others not so. With the sun just poking through the trees there, looks kind of cool, mixed in with a little bit of haze from this morning. So here's the turning to Yanchep, where we went on my last little trip, just down there. So we're going considerably further north today. We had a slightly interesting thing happen to us the other day. Shame I didn't have a camera with me at the time. But we went out in the car for lunch. And we went out towards Guilderton, which again is in this same direction. Well, it's not far off where we're going actually, a bit more inland. And we suddenly ran into a swarm of locusts. Absolutely millions and millions of locusts. The swarm just kept going on and on and on. It would occasionally sort of fizzle out, and we thought we were through it. A bit of fresh air in. Yeah, it sort of fizzled out and we thought we were through it, and then suddenly whoosh, another great big load of them came in, and they were over the bonnet, and what a mess it made, you know. I mean, I'd slowed, fortunately we were the only people on the road, so I slowed right down to almost walking pace, and they just seemed to be shooting over the bonnet. But of course when we got home, all the front of the car, the flat part of the car at the front, was absolutely splattered with yellow goo and horribleness. So that took ages to clean all that off. I got a dry paintbrush, and because they'd all jammed into all the vents, these big, quite big locusts, but bits of wings and legs and all sorts of crap had jammed into the vents. So I brushed all that out, and then I cleaned it all off and cleaned everything up and got everything back to what I thought was fine. But for the next, I would say 3 days, there was obviously other locusts that were still alive that had gone through the grill and got into the engine bay. You can't, on the BM, you lift the bonnet, you can't see anything, it's all closed in. So in the deepest, darkest recesses of the engine bay, there was obviously lots of locusts that were still alive, and they kept just popping out in the garage for about 3 days. You go in and there's another great big locust on the wall, and you get rid of it and think, well, that must be it surely. A couple of days later there's more. Anyway, they seem to have fizzled out now, but I gather they're quite devastating for the for the farmers, you know. Obviously they eat everything. There wasn't any noticeable, the bit that we drove through where they all were, there wasn't really any noticeable, you know, we couldn't see any devastation or anything that they'd caused, but they must have done, you know. Obviously something going on up here. Oh, here we go. Constantly doing stuff to the roads here. As I've mentioned before, the roads generally are absolutely superb, and they're constantly pumping money into roads. I'm not sure why we needed a guy in a truck saying follow me. I think we probably could have maybe managed that for ourselves. passing the turn off for Two Rocks, which is one of our very local haunts. There is a cafe at Two Rocks that is probably my favourite. They do an exceptional BLT. So certainly at some point I'll call at Neptune's Cafe with you. But I don't think it'll be today because with the mask situation and they can only do takeaways and stuff like that, it's not the best day to do it. But we will go there at some point. We're just passing the turn off for the Guilderton Observatory up here to the right. It's actually not a place that we've ever been, but a few people that we know have been and said it's a really good night out. It's a proper observatory down there, down Military Road, and I believe it's really good. So it's just something we've not got around to doing yet, but on a clear night, I think even if you're, the way it's been explained to me, that you don't really have to be too tuned into astronomy to enjoy it. It's just interesting. So at some point we'll give that a go, should I say. There's a particular mate of mine in the UK, a guy with exceptionally white teeth actually, would probably love it there. Now that will make no sense to anybody else, but he'll know what I'm talking about. Very hazy over there. I don't know if you can make that out in between the trees there, but really hazy. I was thinking the other day that one or two of my UK mates, when they're watching these videos, surely must be thinking that they've got these lovely big open roads in Australia, and there's Carl plonking along at 100 k's an hour, which is like 60 mile an hour. Now, I mean, obviously I would never want to break the speed limit, as I'm sure they wouldn't, but they must think it's strange. Well, the truth is, and I don't know whether I have a feeling I may have mentioned this before in other videos, but they're very keen on speeding here, and they hide the cameras. So you have to be really careful. I think I was actually, about a week ago, I think I was caught, and if I was, they've got me doing literally about 2 or 3 mile an hour over the limit. It's pretty much zero tolerance here. They can actually do you for 1 kilometre over the speed limit, which is just over half of a mile an hour. They generally don't. They generally give you a little bit of leeway, but it is only a really tiny bit. So I'm just waiting for something dropping through the post, and as I say, it would only be a few kilometres over the limit, but at best it would be a $100 fine. It could be a $200 fine and 2 points, and that's just for a slight lapse in concentration, just talking to Angie and just drifting over slightly, and you just don't see the cameras coming. They're tucked away, they hide them in the bushes. At some point I'll pass one when we're out and about, and I'll probably turn around and go back through it again and show you, because it's quite bizarre. As a consequence of the speed camera situation here, you can almost say people don't speed. They really do stick to the speed limits. I think it would also be true to say that probably 80% of people drive on cruise control. for the same reason, just to try and prevent the accidental stuff. That's actually the one failing of this bike, really. The Harley has cruise control, and it's excellent. Obviously the car does. I drive on cruise control nearly all the time, and the this bike doesn't. And it's a shame. It's the one thing it's missing. I've tried a few little aftermarket levers and clamps and things, but they're all a bit vague. They're not really worth bothering with. I just tend to find that my right hand, I get pins and needles in my fingers just holding the throttle. So if you ever notice a bit of what appears to be really lumpy bad throttle control, it's just me wiggling my fingers trying to get a bit of feeling back. 20 past 10 in the morning and 26 degrees at the moment, which is just about spot on. On the right here is to Guilderton, which is the area where we found the locusts a few days ago. I'm desperately hoping we don't find them today. People may have noticed that I've got Waze on my phone there. That's not because I need to know where I'm going. As it happens, I put where I'm going in there, but I didn't really need to, obviously. That's because Waze actually warns you of speed cameras, so there'll be a lot of people watching this that know about Waze, but for the few that don't, it's a sort of a user interface idea. So if you see a speed camera, you enter it into the system and it logs it and it shows it to other road users. So essentially it's the community warning the community that there's speed cameras in the area. In the metropolitan area where it's a bit more built up, you could almost say there's a 90% chance that if there's a camera, somebody will have put it on there. In these more rural areas, less so. There's not as many people out here, so there's a reasonable chance that it might not be. There's actually one, if you look at the map now, I don't know whether you can see that, it's showing, I'm sure that's a fixed camera. So that we do have fixed cameras. There's no markings on the road or anything. But if I remember rightly, it's just on the right over here. And they look a bit like totem poles, or like a black and white pole, so they stand out, you sort of notice them. But it's the little portable ones. Here we go on the right hand side here, the black and white pole. So that's one of our fixed cameras. Being a fixed camera, that's definitely shown on Waze. But the mobile little pop-up ones where there's somebody hiding in the bushes, as I say, round the more built-up areas, there's almost always somebody that's entered it, so you get a bit of a warning. Okay, this is the turning for Guilderton, which is the town where Moor River meets the ocean. So just coming into the town of Guilderton now. Tiny little place. It's kind of classed as a bit of a holiday destination. There's very little here, but there's a fair few people have little holiday homes, chalets, shacks. Some of the timber places here are not much more than sheds, and I think a fair few of them, we've had a picnic down in that little park there before now. Look at the old boy here with his wheelbarrow. But I think a few of these homes, you could almost guarantee that one there is probably a holiday home. Obviously some of them will be locals. But these little sort of coastal towns, there's little places, you know, almost like a little fishing town. They tend to get snapped up for holiday homes. Tremendous amount of money in Perth, and some people have got property all over the place. So there is your first glance at Moor River. That's where the river meets the sea, with this rather impressive sandbank dividing the two, which is quite unusual. They have also thought about us, and last night they sent a guy down who painted some motorcycle parking just here, just for us. Only did this last night. Okay, so here we are at Moor River. Okay, so found a nice little spot in the shade for the bike. Took all the cameras and everything off and locked my helmet to the bike, so we'll go and have a little bit of a wander and get the drone up so we can see. And nice little shelters here with barbecues in. Some of these barbecues are free. Yeah, they're free. Yeah, you just help yourself, leave them clean is the idea. To be honest, a lot of people don't. But this is Moor River Estuary. So obviously the river flows down here. At certain times of the year, it flows, that sandbar breaks. It literally washes away and it just flows straight out to sea. And then at other times, like now, it's actually closed off. It's quite, I believe it's quite technical how it all works. It's actually explained on these boards here. So I think not that one, this one. This actually explains how and why the sandbar closes off and such like. So if anybody's interested, you can pause it at that point and have a look and a read. Obviously you can go up to the lookout point up there at the top. We won't do that today, we'll send the drone over there. And this, just to the right hand side, you can only see a couple there, but there's a campsite just to the right there, which I believe is quite a nice campsite. As you know, with our last couple of videos, camping, it turns out it's not for us. So yeah, we'll not go there again. But nice spot. And super quiet at the moment. I mean, obviously it's midweek, but down a weekend, this place can be absolutely packed. They have little canoes and pedalos and such like from those jetties there, and there's people paddle boarding and all that sort of stuff. There's a swimming platform just over there. So yeah, it can be really busy here. that we've been down here and all that car park there and this car park over here has been absolutely full. You couldn't get in. So yeah, it's a nice time to come down in the week. Well, that was pretty good. Enjoyed that. I think we'll go and see if we can get a bit of something to eat now. There is a cafe over here and fingers crossed it's open. Shitbag. Sorry, we're closed. Bugger. Okay, well that limits things a bit. Okay. I've just arrived at Neptune's Cafe and had a little bit of a disappointment. I'll just take you through. I've just discovered that on the trip from Moor River down to here, I'd caught the mute button on my microphone. So a little bit of footage you've just seen. I can only apologise, no sound. Nice bit of music though, maybe. So here we are. We decided to come to Neptune's Cafe, which is the one with the what should be famous BLT. It's quite a nice setting. If I flip that round again, there's a lovely little harbour there. Amazed that haze hasn't cleared today. But yeah, this is Two Rocks. Very nice place. And this fella here is King Neptune. And there is a story behind Two Rocks that I will show and tell you fairly soon when we've done here. Can't believe I caught the bloody mute button. Shouldn't make it so easy, should they, to catch it? Anyway. Okay, so let's go and have a look at King Neptune. So yeah, that there is the theme park that was. Would have been a nice attraction to bring people to Perth, but it didn't work. Wasn't making enough money. It's all about money. Very nice. Okay, so I will head down and we will head back towards home. Okay, so that was 2 rocks. We'll head back down the coast now towards home. There isn't really a coast road as such this far north. It's, the road is set in a bit, so you can't exactly cruise down the coast with the sea on your shoulder, which is a little shame, but never mind. I remember a story, I remember an incident, should I say, that happened to us a few years ago that was one of the most bizarre things that's happened to me on a bike, and it was up in this area. Angie and I had been to Gingin, which is a good bit further north than this. We'd been for lunch, I think, and we were both on the Harley, and basically I misjudged the fuel, and we were very, very low on fuel. I didn't realise there was no petrol stations on the Indian Ocean Highway till you got a lot further south. So the gist of it was, there we were riding along, and I'm watching the fuel consumption going down and down and down, and we were kind of trying to work it out and thinking, we're not going to have enough fuel. And I knew there wasn't any, well, I was realising that there wasn't any fuel stations. So eventually it got to the point where the bike is saying, you know, we're watching the distance that you've got left to travel, and it worked its way down to 20k, 10k, 5k, 0k. I think when it was on about 5k, I pulled into a lay-by at the side of the road, and I said to Angie, we might have a bit of a problem here. I don't think we're going to have enough fuel to get back home. Which posed, there was also no phone signal, because it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. So there was cars passing and lorries passing, so I could have flagged somebody down and got a lift to the nearest garage. But that poses the problem of what do you do in that scenario. You know, a very expensive Harley, you don't want to leave that at the side of a main road. There was nowhere to get it off the road. If a big wagon went by, the wind and the suction from the wagon would very likely knock it over. I didn't want to leave Angie with the bike, that wasn't safe. I didn't want Angie to go in somebody's car to go and get the fuel, that wouldn't have been safe. So there was no obvious way out of the situation. So anyway, long story short, we set off. The fuel distance that we had remaining immediately went to 0, and I thought our fate was sealed. So as we rode another 2, 3, 4k's, the bike just kept going, and then eventually, it just died. And I sort of instinctively gave it a bit of a wiggle. I sort of shook the bike, you know, and let the clutch back out, and it bump started itself. Obviously we were still rolling. It started again, so we carried on, and we got another K or so, and then it died again. Pulled the clutch in again, dropped a couple of gears, and let the clutch out, and it started again. So you'll think that I'm exaggerating. It's a shame Angie's not here to verify this, but we did that. It must have been at least 15 times, maybe 20. It just kept starting again. It kept stopping, but every time I bump started it as we're rolling along at, you know, 50, 60 k's an hour, it just restarted and went a bit further. And we went for quite a long way, a good few miles. And we eventually limped into a garage in Yanchep, not far from where we've just been. And we must have been on absolute fumes. I don't know how we did it, but the bike saved us that day. That would have been a bit of an awkward one. So this area we're in at the moment, or just coming into, is Yanchep. This is very near where that garage was that saved us, which has incidentally since burnt down. There was some massive fires in Yanchep. I'd say it's probably 12-18 months ago now, but some huge fires that the fire services had really struggled to get control of. There was properties were lost. I don't think any lives were lost, fortunately. It was actually getting very close to the cafe where we've just been, which would have been an absolute tragedy if that had burnt down. But yes, it took out the old garage on, I think it was Yanchep Old Road or something like that. The old garage that saved us that particular day. It burnt the place to the ground, and it's never been rebuilt. The fires in WA are something that is a constant threat, not so much to us because we live in suburbia, and you know, there's an awful lot of concrete and paving and plastic grass where we live, so we're in no danger from fires. But the surrounding area, as you look around where we typically go for rides and where you've been with us, there's an awful lot of green, and it burns very easily and it spreads like you wouldn't believe. But the sad thing is all the wildlife, you know, it tends to happen up in the hills where people have horses and cattle and stuff, and sometimes they won't allow people to go back to the property if it's that bad and it's, you know, such a danger to human life. They won't allow people to go back, and they've lost the horses and the dogs, and that would be horrendous. So currently 1:33 and 26 degrees. It's gone a little bit cooler because we're now a bit closer to the coast. Massive development to the right here. Always building up here. They've never, all the time we've been here, the building just spreads, just creeps up the coast. Just passing the suburb where our eldest daughter lives now on the right. So about 15 minutes from home. Some good friends of ours live down there as well. I believe they're supposed to be building a big shopping centre up here shortly. The railway is coming further and further north all the time, and I think the next step that it's taking is to about here, which will helps a lot of people get into the city, and helps a lot of people that don't need to go into the city because it clears up the roads a bit. Or it maybe won't be as chock-a-block in the morning and evening. Okay, still 26 degrees, 1:43. Bah! Understand why people are wearing the masks whilst they're driving the cars. Surely that's a bit of an overkill when you're in the car by yourself. That guy in the car just next to us then had his windows closed, he was by himself, and he still had his mask on. think the whole ride today, the temperature's been absolutely perfect. That's the one thing that I often get wrong. You know, getting your clothing right when you're on a bike where you've got no saddlebags or the ability to carry another jacket or take your jacket off is always an issue. But that temperature today has just been absolutely spot on. Okay, so this has become my usual place for signing off. I'm a couple of minutes away from home. Thank you for once again for joining me at Handlebars and Holidays. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found Moor River and Two Rocks quite interesting. Both nice places, just a typical, we used to ride to Bowness on a Saturday or a Sunday, and now we go to places like Moor River and Two Rocks, and there's lots of others. But thanks again. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. Just for the few people out there that may not realise, subscribing does not involve spending any money. It's not like paying any sort of subscription. All it means is that once you subscribe to a YouTube channel, it shows in your history, and you can go back and just carry on with the next episode or see what that person or persons has uploaded next. It doesn't mean spending anything. A few people I've said to family and friends, have you subscribed? And they if and but. And I said, it doesn't cost you anything, you know. And they go, oh, does it not? So no, it's just purely convenience for you. As long as you've got a Gmail account, most people have these days, you can subscribe, and it just makes life easier. So anyway, thanks once again. Take care and ride safe.